Happy Friday. A couple announcements before we get started. One of them is thank you for all those who submitted work for our juried student show. If you weren't able to make it last night, we had a nice little party there, and you got to go check that out if you haven't seen it. So that's a fun big deal for us. Another piece is just the advising piece. If you are still unable to register for those art seminar classes, be it 288 or 388, 488, all of those, if that's being held up, then you just need to contact that instructor in advance on the email to be able to get in that course. And another thing is for us to be mindful that I'm sure you're all aware that this building is going to have to be vacated, everything out, because they're ripping it all out. So please be mindful if you've got things in flat files, or if you've got things in drawers or cabinets or cupboards or whatever, it's got to be out. And please spare us the task of taking all your stuff and throwing it in the dumpster. Just take care of that stuff. So if you've got stuff, we got to get going on this because we got a lot of stuff to move. So please get to that and clean out those items. All right. Well, now for the introduction. Yeah. Can I turn it over to you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're good to go. So a lot of you were at the reception last night and got a chance to meet our seminar presenter for today. I'd like to introduce Andrea Fagerström, who is an associate professor and gallery coordinator at Bismarck State College. She received her BFA from North Dakota State University and her MFA in Integrated Arts and Education from the University of Montana, Missoula. So I'd like everybody to give a big hand to Andrea and a big thank you for coming to Minot State to share with us and to juror the student show for 2022. Thank you, Andrea.
All right, well, thank you. And I want to echo the thank you back to you guys and all of you students for submitting all of that artwork to the juried exhibit. It was all fantastic. It's always a tough job to kind of pick the pieces that don't get in. So if you were one of them that maybe didn't get something in, don't be discouraged. Keep submitting stuff. It always depends on the juror. And so just keep going with your artistic journey. And of course, thank you, Minot State, for having me. So I'm going to take you guys on my art journey. My space and time with art, with my education and my creation of art, working in the art gallery, advocating for the arts, just kind of an overview of art in my life and those around me. So first, of course, Minot State. Thank you for having me. My mother actually went to college here and was one of Linda's students back in the day, and that's actually how I got introduced to Minot State. I was up here and did participated in some poetry readings as a child, and I know that Minot State and Minot you guys have such a strong arts community that I hope you guys all appreciate that. Of course, you have the Northwest Arts Center here on campus. You've got the Toppy Museum, Suite 22, and a lot more that I'm not aware of because I don't live here. And you guys have such fantastic art faculty as well. Who am I? I'm an artist. I'm also an assistant professor of art and the art gallery coordinator at Bismarck State College. I feel very lucky to say that I love my job. I truly do. I love working with students. I love working with other artists. It's just fantastic. Some quick fun facts before I get into art. Where I grew up really plays into the artwork that I create and who I am as a person. So this is a historical photo of Riverdale, North Dakota. It was built in 1946 to 1950. And it was run by the Corps of Engineers. This is where they used to house the people who were building the Garrison Dam. So there were a lot of businesses in town. It used to have 5,000 people. So they had a hospital, a bowling alley, a swimming pool, and now it's down to about 200 people. But you still really have that strong infrastructure. But I do always have to note that there are several towns that did meet their end because of the building of the dam. So I always want to keep memories of those places. But then in 1986, it got turned over to the people. So that's when there's the first mayor, and how it relates to art, the library in Riverdale, North Dakota. They used to have all these artworks that they would rent out to the people who would live there, because art is so, so important. So these workers would come in, and it was always just temporary, turnover, 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 but they wanted people to feel at home and feel that warmth that art brings. And so you would go to the library, you would rent artwork to hang on your walls in your home, and you could switch it out however you wanted. But because it was a government-run town, you couldn't do it yourself. A government employee would come and put the nail in the wall and then come take it down. It was very controlled, even back in the 1950s. And the way that I grew up around all this beautiful nature, and that really affects me. I'm completely inspired by my surroundings, and keep that in mind with what you choose to surround yourself with. Take note of where you find that creative inspiration, because that's really going to help take you to all the places that you want to go. So of course there's the bald eagle nest, the great blue herons, those images on the far left, your right-hand side. Those blue heron nests, the way the wind blows and just sways them back and forth, they are just incredibly built. And of course, growing up, lots of reading, lots of poetry, lots of art books. I remember looking through Alfred Stieglitz books when I was younger. You're never too old or young for art. It's just always, always there. And these two photos were taken by Erica Rowe, one of my sisters, so I have to give credit where credit is due there. The landscape around the area that I grew up is very picturesque. It's kind of otherworldly. It really is. It makes you feel like you're separated a little bit. It's a beautiful connection to nature, and it just helps open up all those creative avenues within me and brings me inspiration. One thing I do want to point out with these photos, if you notice all the striations in the cliffs and in the layers of stone and sand, because I grew up around that, I see that in everything, and it really does get incorporated in almost every single piece of my art. When I step back and look at it, I see those earth striations. And then up to present day, I'm constantly stacking rocks. They never last because I do them out in nature, but I really like that temporary aspect of it. And just that sense of play and that sense of fun, that sense of imagination, that comes so naturally for children, and I think we sometimes tend to lose that as we grow up. We get a little jaded, but do your very best to not let that happen, because that will help you have that sense of play and sense of exploration and fun that creativity needs. My first semester, when I went to undergrad, I actually was at Concordia College as a music major, because music is also very important in my life. Two fun facts about this photo. Legend says if you walk underneath that archway with the bell tower with someone as the bells are ringing, that's the love of your life. You will be with them forever, never, never. And then in the foreground of the photo, it's a really neat auditory experience, because wherever you're standing and you speak, it bounces back at you, so it sounds like you're talking to yourself. Whether that was intentionally done, I don't know. But then over winter break, after my first semester of college, I had a breakdown because I had visions of myself living in a cardboard box for the rest of my life, paying off my student loans, even though I had a good scholarship. So I transferred to NDSU and became a visual arts major. I feel really lucky to have been there at the time I was, because it was transitioning, actually somewhat similar to what you guys will be going through. The art department used to be in these Quonsets that used to have chickens in it, and then the ROTC was in there. It had this amazing history, and then they were building a new space for us. And that really got me in tune with how you can create space around you in a studio setting to make it work for yourself. And one thing that I really took away from that is speaking to everybody that is going to be utilizing that space, and think, what are the needs that I need to have in this creative space that will make it more conducive to what I'm creating. In the process, at Bismarck State, actually, in the process of building a new building there, I went and visited with the folks at the Heritage Center and visited with them about the process, how they went about renovating their building, and they would talk to everybody who was using the facilities. They intentionally put these little weird-shaped custodial closets throughout the building, because That was one of the big things that the custodians said. They said, we have these closets in these random places, but we have things that happen all over the place. It would be really convenient if we could carve out a couple extra spots for us, and that has really served them well. So really taking into account everyone that's going to be utilizing that space is very important. And then this is a piece of the floorboard from the old art department at NDSU. So because they were bulldozing the whole thing, we went in and we tore up a bunch of the flooring in the painting studio, and actually, that's just a tiny chunk that I have, but we took a whole huge section of it and took one of the doors off of one of the offices of the faculty, and it's still in the new building in downtown Fargo, where you've got this kind of facade inside of a wall that is the old painting studio floor, and then a door from the old art building, which is a lot of fun. And this doesn't really do it justice. The paint on this was so thick because you'd have all these layers of paint, and then they would paint it gray, and then more layers of paint, painted gray. It was so thick, incredible. But in college, what I recommend for you guys to do everything. Go to everything, go to the art receptions, go to your theater events, go to musical performances, go to speakers of everything, not just things related to the arts. The more life experiences you can hear from people, the more career advice you can hear from people, the better off you will be, because we don't exist in isolation. Everything is cross-pollinated. Everything kind of ties in and affects each other. As you guys will be in a different building while this is being renovated, I think you guys are going to get some really neat surprise collaborations that come out of that, just because of your proximity to people in other disciplines. So definitely be open to that cross-pollination aspect, because life is not linear. Keeps you going. The joy of art class. When I was an undergrad, people told me this as well, and you get it a couple years later. But when you are in art class, you have this community of artists that typically you don't get. It's a really special time that you have this crew of people that can really give you feedback. Having that Kandinsky triangle of art, artist, and audience. Typically, the artist has the relationship with the art. And then when that relationship is done, then the art has a relationship with the audience. That relationship between the artist and audience, that typically doesn't happen in a gallery setting. But in art class and in art critiques, you really do get that full triangle, which is really deepens your level of understanding of everybody's pieces of artwork. And geeking out over art. Every time I go to an art gallery or visit other institutions with art, it invigorates you. We all feed off of each other's energy. So getting out there and making those connections, really, really important. Because, yes, art is connection. So keep going with it. And student art gallery. Everyone should be going to the gallery to get experience. When I was in undergrad, I definitely did that, and that has helped me. I can't even count all the ways that helping in the art gallery has helped me. It's that front of house, back of house aspect where you're producing the art, but you don't necessarily know the effort that goes into displaying that artwork and making it ready for public consumption and public display. And so if you as an artist can get a better understanding of that back end, you can produce artwork that is more conducive to a gallery setting or makes it easier for people in the gallery world. So getting that hands-on experience is very, very helpful. Very, very helpful. So I want to show you a little bit of an exhibit that I did, since this is, we've got a lot of capstone people in here. This is part of my capstone experience. It was titled Fruit. And this is a photo from up above. This was in a gallery, of course, and this is an aerial shot. It's installation, sculptural, and painting. So with this exhibit, the people who came into this space became part of the artwork because it was very low light, so they cast shadows. You would walk through this, so you would push the fruit to the side and the lanterns, and it was just very interactive. It was a very different experience if you were in there alone versus with a group of people. And of course, there was smells of fruit all over the place. And then, of course, a cast shadow view. So the lanterns, hand-built, and then I had thin paper around the outside, and I did watercolor paintings of fruit in various stages of decomposition, because I really wanted to show how all stages of life are beautiful. And the way it started was I would take my dog for a walk every day in the park, and I started taking fruit with me, and I would hide the fruit throughout the park. And every day I would come back and I would check on the fruit as it was decaying and getting eaten by animals, and I would document the decay of the fruit out on this walk that I would always go on. And then that springboarded me into this installation piece. So when you would go into the gallery, you're in the bright lobby, and then I had these dark curtains everywhere, so you would go into a very dark corridor, and then I had containers of fruit soaking in water in multiple stages of decay. So it was a fresh fruit smell, and then kind of rotting, and then fermentation. And then you come around the corner and you walk through all of these pieces of dried hung fruit and lanterns. So the process of dyeing that fruit, I would slice it, and then I'd put it in a vat of water with food coloring. And at this time, I was living with 3 guys in Fargo, and they would go out into the garage, and they'd be like, something's, like, there's mice all over the place. My fault. But they said they're acting really weird. Like, this is kind of a horrific story, but one of my roommates, he took a hammer and just went clunk to a mouse that was just walking around. The mice were drunk. I didn't realize that my vats of fruit water were fermenting. So all these mice were just drunk walking around the garage, and they were easy targets. And then I moved to Bismarck, the Banana Belt. It's always warmer in Bismarck. So I'm always, this was a big life change. You know, after college, moving to a new town, I started working with children at this point, and children are absolute sponges. They pick up on everything so incredibly quickly. When I worked with children, I did an Artist of the Month program where I chose an artist, and we would learn about the artist. We would do artwork in the style of the artist, and it was so much fun. You know, Jackson Pollock, of course, we did splatter painting. Frida Kahlo, we did self-portraits with content. For Queen, we did air guitar technique, which is that was a lot of fun. And then also perspective, 1 and 2 point perspective. These 4 to 5-year-olds picked up linear perspective like that. Teaching 18 and 19-year-olds perspective takes a little bit longer. But these kids, like, in 10 minutes, completely got the concept because their brains are just sucking in everything around them. At the same time that I was teaching preschool, I was also at Bismarck State College. I was the art gallery coordinator, and I was teaching part-time. And I actually found that there was a lot of similarities between these 2 groups of people. I always called them my bookends. I had these little kids and these young adults. And the similarities, this is their first time away, right? So the preschoolers, it was their first time away from mom and dad, and, like, you know, leaving to go somewhere else. And for college, first-time college students, they were leaving and totally on their own, not living at home, kind of exploring their autonomy and making decisions for themselves. You know, of course, successes and struggles, all of these things that come with that growth. You know, you've got these wonderful little successes, but then you've got those struggles that come with growth as well. Art student concerns. So when I have students come through my art class, the 2 biggest concerns that I get is, number 1, I don't know how to draw. I can't draw a stick figure, can't do this or that. And the opposite end of that is, I've taken every single art class I can ever take. I'm afraid I'm not going to be challenged. And those worries, of course, can be laid to rest. If you've never picked up a stick of charcoal before, that's fine, right? It's growth. It's how are you developing as an artist. And then as far as taking a lot of art classes, I can guarantee you I can take a drawing 1 course and I will absolutely learn something. Right there, there's always something more you can learn from someone. The blank canvas. So a blank canvas can be really intimidating. I find the 2 hardest things when working with art is where do you start and where do you stop? Because sometimes you can push artwork too far, where it's like, I wish I wouldn't have made that mark. But you don't know until you push that boundary, right? It's like learning any new skill. You find your limits by sometimes pushing beyond them. The sketchbook. I'm sure in art class you guys all have sketchbooks. Continue that through your life. And my my recommendation, always throw the date on there. It's wonderful. I love going through my old sketchbooks. Looking through my old sketchbooks, I can get inspired in present day, or I start to see my progression more, and I see these connections that I didn't see before, because you can go back in time and see where your thought process was at. A really good piece of advice that an instructor gave me was, don't hold your artwork too sacred. Meaning, sometimes you can get afraid of it. Like, you've put so much time into it, and you're like, I don't want to mess it up. But you've done it once, you can do it again. If you put your artwork in a space that's too sacred, then you start to become afraid to handle it and deal with it. So just kind of goes back to that sense of play. Just keep going back to that play. And of course, you have to make art a priority. In school, that just kind of goes with the territory, but once you're not in college anymore, you really have to make it a priority and make it an effort to incorporate art creation in your life. The University of Montana, this is where I got my Master's of Integrated Arts in Education. This was a summer program. I don't know how I survived it, because I was teaching preschool, college, and taking grad school, and had 2 young children at the time. So it was pretty stressful, but this is a fabulous program. It's geared for teachers, actually, at like all levels of teachers, and it's really about interdisciplinary works, and how can you incorporate art in all of these different disciplines. One of my instructors was a dancer, and one of her projects, she would go into schools, elementary schools, and teach kids about fractions, mathematics, with dance. Like, what does a 1/4 fraction look like with your body? What does a 7/8 fraction look like with your body? And you'd make your body smaller and bigger, and just having that movement connected to that learning just takes it to the next level. Change of tide. So as the farther I got away from my undergrad work, more and more things with life kind of get in the way of getting completely sucked into your artwork. So I moved to more music, photography, outdoor art, sketching, versus some of the more time-consuming types of art, because I felt like I had kind of sneak and steal time away to be creative. So with music, I learned how to play guitar. I played piano forever, but music is so important. And I find with artists rarely create in isolation. If someone is artistically inclined, visually, they are also a musician, or they are a poet, or they like to do theater productions. Rarely is it in isolation. And so I encourage you guys to share your other talents, because those connections really give more depth to where you're coming from. So I live in a very beautiful area that I'm constantly inspired by. And this is one of my neighbors. He's passed away now, but he created the sign, and I just think it speaks beautifully to how people should live their life. And I think most people are artists. I don't think everyone would necessarily call themselves an artist, but everyone is artistic in some capacity. One of the other neighbors put this up during a very hard winter. It's a private drive, so we have to clear our own snow. So it was dicey for a while. But I have really embraced digital photography with my cell phone, because I can carry that around everywhere. It is super mobile, it is super quick, and so I've done quite a bit with playing with silhouette photography. So these are my children. I don't tell them how to pose with these. I just say, that's the moon, do something around the moon. And that sense of play with kids, try getting adults to do this. It's a lot harder to get adults to do this, but kids just naturally have that sense of play. And with the kind of silhouette series, I really like that it plays around with that positive, negative space. All those other individual textures and values they kind of disappear, because it really becomes about that positive, negative space. And then I've done a lot, I really enjoy landscape photography, and this is, if you can think back to those first photos that I showed of the striations in the earth, when I look at the landscape I live around now, I still see that. I see it like it's just a series of lines all the way up to the top of the photograph. So I see my childhood landscape when And when I'm looking at artwork, I see in my brain, it sort of gets simplified down to simple shapes right away. So when I see like this photograph, I see triangles, I see a line, I see a rectangle, I see a circle, and then I start to see the landscape. So pay attention to how you absorb the visual world around you, because then that will help you kind of figure out where you want your artwork to go. Again, with this, I see layers. I see those striations. This is actually across the river from me. This is in Chief Looking's village in Bismarck. But yeah, it's broken down into those individual shapes. Same thing with this photo. I see just all these striations coming into play. And I really enjoy the sky versus the ground. I think they really reflect each other. I think we are all mirrors of each other. I think the world is a mirror. Like, everything is just so tied together and similar. So this was during at the same time I was taking photographs of the sky, and I was taking photographs of the riverside. And I just saw all of these similarities. I love the textures. I love the colors. I love the gradations. This is a night photo that I took that, in my mind, I'm like, this looks like the beach. Like, it's the sky, but I see sand with that. So I think making those connections of what you see and what that represents to you can really help, guide you a little bit. I've been playing around with digital photography, lengthening the shutter speed and seeing what shapes can happen with that. With this one, I really like that line from the fire, that diagonal line from, or actually the lantern on the left-hand side and the fire on the right-hand side of the photo, that the spark from the fire mirrors that line from the lantern light. I really like that parallel and going off the picture plane with it. Same thing with this photo. It's that childhood striations, just all simplified into those lines with textures. Vantage point with photography, I find it's very, very helpful. A lot of my photos, I'll get really, really low to the ground. Like with this, my lens is about that far off the ground. Like I'm basically sticking my phone as far like into the ground. And that really changes your vantage point, and it changes where your focus is. With play, I manipulate my environment a bit, always with play. So these are, just wet sand, and then you let it drip off your hand, and it just stacks into these really cool kind of outer space looking features. And with photography, you can really kind of fool the eye a little bit. These things in real life are maybe that big, but because I stuck my phone kind of buried in the sand a little bit, so my lens was as close to the ground as possible, it looks like these could be quite large. Another one, and it's games, it's fun. Like I'm in a constant state of playing, and these were some friends that I had over and playing a game, and ended up doing these beautiful markings in the sand. So I like that play of the man-made mark versus nature-made mark, that play back and forth. And then with dirt, when our springtime comes, when you have dirt and sand that goes over the snow, and everyone says, "Oh, everything looks dirty." If you scrape into it, you can reveal this beautiful white lines, and it's just incredible what you can do with it. It's so much fun. Just play with your environment. This is a big labyrinth that I created on the beach. Labyrinth versus maze. Labyrinth has a beginning and an end. A maze, you can get lost in it. And I've created so many of these in wintertime, but mostly in summertime. Scraping my feet through the sand, and it's really fun to just. I can't even guesstimate how big this is. But these are just small snapshots of the snow labyrinth, for lack of a better word. With working with kind of land-based art, I like the temporary nature of it. So this is just one of a series that I did with leaves. I would write little words on them. I do little sketches, and these leaves were very delicate, like I could just crush it in my hand. I did a number of these, and I can't tell you if anyone even saw them. Like I would do it, I'd set it down, set it down, set it down. So this is kind of my little messages to the world, not knowing if anyone would receive them. You know, so those little hidden, I wonder if anyone will notice deals. Then I started playing with leaves in the fall as they were changing colors. One of the things that I had to experiment with, because I wanted to incorporate sewing into it, was how do you preserve the leaf? Because once you pick the leaf, it immediately starts to dry, gets brittle. If you stick a needle through it, it immediately crumbles. So what I discovered is if I took a bucket of water and put mineral oil in the water, and I put the leaves in it and let it soak for a couple days, and then take the leaves out, they remain pliable, and they still are. This was last fall or 2 falls ago, and I can still pick those leaves up and bend them. So that mineral oil, and the colors are still the same as well. So depending on what materials you work with, you really got to kind of play around with it and experiment. Then I've gotten into weaving a bit. The big one on the right is my very first woven piece that I've done. That I learned from Sue Bartholomew, not Bartholomew, it's Balcom now. Sue Balcom, but now I do have a rigid heddle loom that I like to work with. Those are a couple of my pieces. Again, I like that striation idea, though those lines just stacked upon each other. Playing around with straight lines versus kind of getting some organic type lines in there. Just a lot of play. Then I've got some encaustic pieces. Encaustic is painting with wax. It's great for incorporating collage and different mediums. There are infinite possibilities with encaustic. But one of the fun things that so there's this artist in Fargo, Emily Williams Wheeler, and she's an incredible encaustic artist. And I was visiting with her and saying like, well, gosh, with encaustic, it can melt. And she said, if your encaustic painting is melting, you've got bigger problems because your house is on fire. Because it's a different type of wax. You need so much more heat to get it liquid and moving around. And I've got some paintings that I like to play with. I love diptychs. I love playing around with triptychs. Texture is really big for me. I love visual texture. I like physical texture, and I like playing with them at the same time. Color gradations. So yeah, with this one I had built up this really thick texture before I put any paint on it because I like the way the paint kind of scrapes across it. And then this one, kind of reminiscent of the labyrinths that I do in snow and sand. Then I find myself, again, going back to those simple shapes, circles and orbs and triangles and lines. Like, I find myself just kind of going back to those basic, simple forms. There's power in simplicity. So this is a combination of watercolor, chalk pastel, oil pastel. Again, those simple lines. This one is oil. And this is part of a series where I limited myself to this color palette and 3 lines, 1 orb, and 1 triangle. And limiting myself to just those components, how many compositions can I come up with? And if you find yourself struggling to find your creativity, limitations can really help you. Because sometimes if you have too many options, it's decision fatigue. But if you say, I'm going to limit myself to this right here, you can really spread your creative wings within a box, which sounds like it maybe wouldn't work, but I promise it does. This is another oil piece I did. So some pieces I create, it is, I'm just working with the elements and principles of design. Other pieces are more content heavy. This one definitely I have more content. I have the 4 water droplets because, water is our life sustenance. Without water, we can't have life. And I have 4 of those because, referencing our 4 stages of life, our 4 seasons. And the drop at the bottom is going off the picture plane because we never know when our last season ends, right? We don't know when death is upon us. It just ends. On the right-hand side, that's symbolic of the sun, which of course another source of life and lots of symbolism throughout time in many, many cultures. The pairs of lines that I have on the left-hand side and then at the top and then curving along the sun there, Those are representative of the three fates, like how much control do we have over our lives. I think it's pretty limited. And then the green orbs at the bottom, a lot of times we feel like we're just these separate entities just kind of bouncing against each other, but we are all way more similar than we are different. So I really like that, having that sense of unity. Okay, well, there's three more there, you just don't see them. But I had done a series of really quick sketches with paint using plants as reference, because I also love plants. And then I had my children create them alongside with me. I encourage you, whoever you are around in your life, try to get them involved with the arts if they aren't already, because the more people you can get on the art train, the easier it is to continue with art. And it doesn't have to take long. I mean, these paintings, maybe 45 minutes we spent all together. Even fun little things, and you guys have all probably participated in Inktober, right? That's so much fun to see how many people can interpret one word visually in such a different way. And just a fun exercise, that kind of that daily how do you stay creative? I've got some prints that I've played around with. This one is quite old now. I had done these on baby wipes. So this was when my children were younger, and it was a lino cut, and then I ran it through the press, and then I did ghost prints after it until there was no ink left on the lino cut. And I like that kind of fading nature of it, and this is not archivally safe. It's way more faded today than it was when I made it. But I like that going, gone sense, because as that life change of becoming a parent, it happened so quickly that I could see my old self. I was losing that. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but things were changing so quickly, I could see the old version of myself right there, and I'm quickly moving away from it. And then also just relating to time and life. Kids are great gauges of time. They grow so quickly. They're going, gone. That's a screen print I did, also incorporating watercolor. I love playing around with mixed media. Creating with one medium is fun as well, but I like that cross-pollination. Another screen print using CMYK color separation. This is a mixed media piece. I really enjoy playing around with handmade papers because a lot of times they have a transparent quality. So this is a combination of screen print. The lines in the background, that's a screen print. The green is a very transparent piece of handmade paper that I pasted on top, and then that circle is a different handmade paper as well. And playing around with the sequence is a lot of fun as well. Like, do you screen print first and then paste on top? And how does that look if you put the colored paper first and then screen print on top of the paper? So playing around with sequence can deliver a lot of different results. Gesture line is one of my favorite forms of drawing. Goes really, really quick, super expressive. Let's see here. I'm going to go through this quickly so I can get through it all. So I did a project with Jeanette Myrie Elementary School where I went into all of the classrooms. Each canvas was 2 feet by 5 feet. And it was 275 students total, and it was 1 canvas per grade. And then I did diptychs or triptychs. So if there's 2 kindergarten classrooms, I had 2 canvases. 3 kindergarten classrooms, 3 canvases. And I love seeing the progression of their art capabilities. So the only guidance that I gave on the canvas is I drew a line where the sky starts and the land starts, and then drew a line where bodies of water are. So this was the completed kindergarten piece, the triptych. And then I didn't do a before shot, but for kindergarten, but everyone else I did. So I came into the classrooms 2 times. The first time, the students just did the background. And then I came back a second time, and they added things on top of it, right? So first grade level, second grade, third grade background, And look at that development from 5th grade and then back to kindergarten. I mean, that's just incredible. And then while I had the kids, I did ask them, tell me about your teacher. What do you like about your teacher? And I documented everything that the kids said. And what I pulled away from that is it's how kids feel. Like, you make them feel seen, you make them feel heard, you make them feel valued, and that's what they take away. And sharing of yourself. Hope Manor. I did a project here as well. Hope Manor was the only sober living home in North Dakota. There are more now, which is awesome. But I went in and I did projects with some of the ladies who were working there. I had them write a haiku and then do artwork after writing the haiku. Some of them incorporated the haiku with their artwork by writing it on. Not everyone did. And writing the haiku, everyone kind of did quietly on their own. And when creating the artwork, I found that everyone opened up more once I started participating. Like, I pulled out a canvas and I started doing one as well, and that's when things got a little bit looser and more open. Okay, how to further yourself as an artist. Get it together. Make yourself appealing. Digital portfolio. Get your artist statement and biography. These should be living documents. You should always be going back and tweaking them. One of the best pieces of advice one of my graduate instructors gave me was read it backwards, meaning go to the end of your artist statement, read that last sentence, then go to the next one, and next one, next one. It's incredible how much you can hack away and how much you can change by reading it backwards. When you're visiting with galleries, think about how much artwork do you have? When could you open your first exhibit? If someone says, hey, I like your artwork, would you like to exhibit? Be able to say, yes, I can have my stuff ready in 6 months, or I have stuff ready now. Have a business card. Get social media. Be able to articulate your artwork. That's something that I find a lot of artists struggle with, is how can you talk about your artwork? So get your elevator speech ready. If you're in the elevator with someone, how can you describe your artwork? Another thing I find a lot of people kind of miss the boat on is getting your keeping track of your artwork. Photograph, 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 document, keep the sizes, record your exhibitions, keep provenance of your artwork. If someone buys your artwork, get their contact information, create a mailing list. So if you display at a gallery, you can say, hey, here's my list of mailing, of people who enjoy my artwork, and they can just tack that right on. They are constantly notified of your artwork. Then grants. Absolutely get involved in grants. There are so many grants available for artists and arts organizations. Grant writing and applications can be really intimidating, but the organizations that have those grants really work with you. If you can visit with them or get on a grant review committee, that can be exponentially valuable. Reading other people's grants is really helpful too, because you can see novice grant writers and people who have written a gazillion grants, and you can really pull and take away the information that they have. Residencies and apprenticeships. There's a ton of them out there, local and nationally. A lot of them are linked with universities. A great way to get connected with those is network. The more artists you meet, the more people you talk to, get that information. It's all these connections that you can make. Arts organizations in North Dakota, we have a ton of them. There's the North Dakota Council of the Arts. In Bismarck, we have the Dakota West Arts Council. In Minot, you have the Minot Area Council of the Arts. Get membership at your local galleries. Get memberships with national organizations. You get on their mailing lists. You get notifications of exhibits that are available for you. Art co-ops. It's networking. It's finding how can you find those opportunities. Where does this money come from? It's the government. We do not have an arts lobby in North Dakota. So I encourage all of you guys to find out who your local representatives are. Always invite them to your art events, whether it's visual, musical, whatever, because they need to see where this money is going to. And if they see your appreciation, they're more likely to keep funding those arts organizations. Thank you notes to your local representatives. So if you go to something and this is funded by the North Dakota Council of the Arts, write a quick thank you note to the North Dakota Council of the Arts and say, hey, I went to this exhibit. It was awesome. Thank you for supporting this. Also, sending that up to your local representatives is very helpful. Testimonial of support. If you go to someplace and you really enjoy it, let them know, and then they can use that as well. So not just thinking, wow, I really like that organization, or wow, I really like that exhibit. Put it down in writing, because that will help fund those organizations. Art gallery, tips, tricks, and accessibility. You will learn all this if you go to if you help out at the gallery with Craig. So logistics is how's it going to be displayed, how's it going to be framed, hanging wire, magnets. There's all of these things. I'm not going to have. Orientation is important. Think accessibility. Font. What size is your font for your labels? There's a lot of people who can't read small fonts, so you have to make sure to make it bigger. Height on a wall. You can think between 57 and 60 inches is typically where the center of your artwork is, because there's people of all heights, and also you have people in wheelchairs. You don't want to have something super high that someone can't appreciate. So having it kind of in that middle ground is super, super helpful. One thing that I wouldn't expect to have in an art gallery is a luggage, like a scale for your luggage, because if you have a heavy piece of artwork, I want to make sure that I have the right hanging hardware and the right hook in the wall. So I use a luggage scale to figure that out, which has been very helpful. With art gallery exhibits, I think of how am I displaying this in general, right? I look at each wall as a composition. Northwest Arts Center. We'll go through this one. So with this one, I looked at this whole wall as a composition. So yes, there are 5 individual pieces of artwork, but I have it displayed that way because you've got 2 black and whites and then 3 of those blue photographs. This one is related. Maybe not. Technical difficulties. It's all gone black, Craig. But that might be good because I think this is the end of your class, isn't it? Yeah.
Do you have any questions for Andrea? If we could get some questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Sorry, I went long, guys. I didn't talk as fast as I thought I was going to talk. All right.
Any questions?
Thank you so much, and thank you to Andrea for the presentation and for jurying our show. Have a good weekend, all.